The story of Pompeii is one we think we know, yet it is a narrative that is constantly being edited by the silent witnesses found beneath the volcanic soil. For generations, the plaster casts created by Giuseppe Fiorelli in the 19th century stood as the definitive image of the disaster, figures frozen in a struggle for air, huddled in corners or shielding their faces from the falling pumice. However, these casts were essentially opaque cocoons, hiding the skeletons and the biological secrets of the people inside until the recent implementation of advanced medical imaging. Under the leadership of the Great Pompeii Project, a multidisciplinary team of scientists has begun a systematic journey inside these shells using state-of-the-art 16-layer CT scanners, originally designed for living patients, but now serving as a portal to 79 AD. This transition from external observation to internal investigation has revealed that the citizens of Pompeii were far more complex than the tragic statues we once believed them to be. One of the most immediate and striking revelations came from the mouths of the victims themselves, as the scan showed an extraordinary level of dental health that rivals many modern populations. Most Pompeians had perfectly straight teeth with virtually no cavities, a detail that initially puzzled researchers until they analyzed the chemical composition of the bones and the likely diet of the era. They discovered that the absence of processed sugar, combined with a diet rich in fruits, vegetables, and high-fiber grains, created a dental landscape that was surprisingly robust. Furthermore, the local water supply, fed by the volcanic slopes, was naturally high in fluorine, effectively fluoridating the population's teeth and protecting them from the decay that would become rampant in later centuries. This single detail transforms our understanding of Roman life from one of primitive struggle to one of sophisticated health and nutrition. But the scans didn't just tell us how they lived, they provided a brutal frame-by-frame reconstruction of how they died, challenging the long-held belief that most succumbed to slow suffocation. While the rain of ash certainly took its toll, the imagery reveals a significant number of victims with fractured skulls and broken limbs, suggesting that the initial phases of the eruption involved a violent bombardment of lapilli, or volcanic rocks, that caused roofs to cave in on those who thought they were safe indoors. For those who survived the collapsing structures, the end came not through the air being sucked out of the room, but through a series of pyroclastic surges, massive clouds of gas and ash moving at hundreds of miles per hour. The scans of the bones show a specific type of fracturing and muscle contraction known as the pugilistic pose, which occurs when extreme heat, often exceeding 500 degrees Fahrenheit, causes the proteins in the muscles to shrink instantly. This means that many of the victims didn't spend minutes gasping for air. They were killed in a fraction of a second by a thermal shock so intense it essentially vaporized their soft tissue while leaving their skeletons intact. Beyond the mechanics of death, these new scans are dismantling the romanticized myths created by early archaeologists. For over a century, a pair of victims found embracing were known as the two maidens, assumed to be sisters or friends in a final act of comfort. However, recent CT data and DNA analysis from bone fragments have revealed that these were actually two young men, possibly lovers or close friends, but certainly not the maidens of historical fiction. Similarly, a famous family found in the House of the Golden Bracelet, previously identified as a mother, father, and two children, has been revealed through genetic testing to be four unrelated individuals who simply happened to seek shelter in the same location. These discoveries are a humble reminder that history is often colored by the biases of those who uncover it, and that true objective truth often requires the cold, hard data of a scanner. The technology has also allowed us to see into the very early lives of these people, identifying markers of childhood malnutrition or infectious diseases like tuberculosis and malaria, proving that even in a wealthy city like Pompeii, the specter of disease was never far away. Some researchers even point to bone lesions that suggest the presence of syphilis long before it was thought to have entered Europe, though this remains a point of heated debate among historians and medical experts. As the project continues to scan more of the 86 casts currently being restored, the digital archive becomes a priceless resource for understanding the human condition under extreme duress. It is a sobering thought to realize that as we peel back these layers of ash and plaster, we are looking at the exact same anatomy, the same fears, and the same desperate hopes that we carry within ourselves today. The work being done in Pompeii is not just about the past, it is a vital tool for the future, helping modern scientists understand the potential impact of Vesuvius on the millions of residents currently living in the red zone of Naples. Every year, new data suggests the mountain is stirring, and the data gathered from these ancient victims is used to create modern evacuation plans. While the findings presented here are based on the latest archaeological reports, it is important to remember that historical interpretation can change as new evidence emerges, and anyone looking for specific historical or scientific guidance should consult with professional academic sources. Ultimately, these scans have done something that 2,000 years of history couldn't. They have given the victims of Pompeii their humanity back, moving them from the category of artifacts to the category of people. Every tooth, every fracture, and every DNA strand tells a story of a life lived in the shadow of a giant, a life that ended in a flash of heat, but was preserved by the very element that destroyed it. We are now able to see the folds of their clothing and the indentations of their jewelry, small reminders that even in the face of total annihilation, we leave behind traces of who we were. Scientists are even using the 3D data to 3D print identical replicas of the skeletons, allowing for hands-on study without risking the original remains. This means that the boy found with his parents or the merchant found with his gold can now be studied with a level of intimacy that was previously impossible. We are learning about the occupational hazards of the time, such as the wear and tear on the spines of laborers or the healed fractures of gladiators. The city is finally speaking, and it is telling us that the Romans were perhaps more modern than we ever dared to imagine. As we look at these digital reconstructions, we realize that the distance between us and them is not as vast as the centuries might suggest. They cared for their health, they loved their families, and they were caught completely off guard by a world that changed in an instant. This ongoing research ensures that their names may be lost, but their presence remains indelible in the annals of human history. And that's something worth remembering when you next consider how much of our own lives we leave behind in the things we touch and the places we inhabit.